Okay, it came on. Oh, Monday. Okay. So I tried to start right on time, and then the screen just went blank. I don't know. I don't know what the deal was. So I pushed a button again, and then it started. So here I am. Hi, who? I'll do a flip right away. Let's just do a flip because the way things are going is in June here so far. Getting this flip done might be the only thing that gets done. It's just been that kind of thing. Um, let's do the paint. Let's do the paint, not paint one. At least the flips are going okay. Yep. There we go. That really feels like probably the only success I'm going to be having today. Um, so June has been kind of a mess, I'll just say. I mean, just for example, like last week, I had to cut Monday short because there was an appointment. And then Wednesday got cut short because the power went out for have no idea why. It was a bright sunny day with no wind, and the power went out for the better part of like a half hour, and I tried to get it back on and it didn't work, so everything had to be reset for Friday, and I think Friday was kind of okay. Um, although it looks like the session ended early, so I don't know what the deal was on Friday. Today I need to cut the session short again because there are more things that must be done that aren't this. Um, and then I'm going to be gone for a while. I need to be away because, well, there's some family things that are okay, I guess, those things happen, and some travel things and some appointment things and a bunch of other things, and there's always something. I'm whining about it incoherently because what that means is I'm going to be gone for probably until after the 4th of July here in this state. So for a variety of things, it all kind of came together. I need to be away after today's shortened session until about, I think, the 8th, whatever the Monday is after the 4th. So I apologize for that. In the meantime, I was just looking at the parts tray here as I'm working on the Apollo model. And I've been working on the lunar excursion module now for what feels like forever. And then I looked at the parts tray, and it looks like, seriously, this looks like this is what I've done in like a month. There's been a little more than that, but to be honest, this is what one can accomplish when I am building models, and I don't know, I must have put like 15 hours into the lunar module already, and this is apparently what I have to show for it, which is kind of sad. But I am going to continue working on it. A lot of time is going to be taken working on the windows for the lunar module, because the windows of the lunar module, the ascent stage, are not molded out of clear plastic, polystyrene, but they are meant to be cut out of a plastic film. And there's a little piece of it, I'd say it's about that big, maybe 4 inches long and an inch wide, that came with the model kit. And all these windows, these and the windows for the command module, these are supposed to all be cut out of it. Well, there's just barely enough if everything was cut edge to edge to do that. And so I decided I would use the top of some carryout containers, takeaway containers. Basically, it's the same sort of plastic that came with the kit, except oftentimes like this, it's full of bubbles and flaws and stuff. So I thought I'd test it, and it's a good thing I did because the template doesn't really work. The doesn't match the windows on the lunar excursion module very well at all. And it's really hard to, at least for me, to get them to where they need to go. I practiced that several times on the stream a while ago. So what I might be doing today is trying some other things. I also practiced with some adhesives, taking, bits of the clear plastic, and that adhesive, as you can see, doesn't hold very well. It popped right off. That was the adhesive that was recommended by the manufacturer of the best canopy cement in the world. And it probably is, as long as you don't pop it off. This is held in place by contact cement. That's holding really quite well. And this is held in place by model cement. That's also holding pretty well. The problem with the model cement is that if it leaks over, it leaves kind of a rim. The contact cement does the same, but at least with the contact cement, it's possible to, like with a toothpick, to clean it off if there's an excess. Yeah, so there's that. And I painted some antennae, and I started working on the astronaut who stands inside the lunar module, and painted details. I even painted the little blue tips of its gloves, because the actual Apollo suit, the moon suit, had blue tips on the tips of its gloves, at least while in the modules, to help with the manipulation of things. And this suit isn't accurate. There aren't enough connectors on the front for the cooling and oxygen and all that sort of thing, and there isn't any belt like that. So I painted some of the detail just so that it didn't look like just plain white. But while I was doing this, I realized that the moon suits were not shiny like this. I painted this a really nice white color, but it's a little glossy. So the other astronauts, this is something I actually did. I did something over the weekend. Is in this box are the things I did. Let's do a box opening. That's always fun on a stream, isn't it? An opening. Let's put the tape off. Ta-da! All the way. Ball it up and stick it somewhere where it's in the way and cause a problem. So what I did was I took the remaining astronauts, the 3 that are sitting down in the command module and the one that's actually supposed to be walking on the moon, and I resprayed them with the primer, which gives it more of a matte look. And that was a good thing to do, because it looks a lot better with this matte finish than it did with the shiny finish. And when I get back from all of the things I need to do over the next 10 days and restart the stream, I'll paint the astronaut figures. So that's something to look forward to, is there will be painting on Painting with Dyson Dungeons. Be astronaut painting. In the meantime, they just get to sit in their little container here. The other thing I did was I painted the inside of the lunar module light blue. It's supposed to be light blue, and now it is. So I'm going to be doing an unmasking today, and then some cleaning up of the edge. And then maybe try to do some things with the windows. Anyway, yeah. So these are painted now. If I can get the windows in, if I can get them attached in the right place so that they don't look all smeary or anything, and if they're adhering well, then I'll mask the outsides of the windows and be able to assemble finally the 2 halves of the lunar module, and then clean up the seam and believe it or not, then it will be almost done. Once I clean up the seams, I'll prime it and paint it, and then attach the antennae and the 16 reaction control jets. And then the ascent stage will, believe it or not, I have a hard time believing it would actually be done. This has been arduous and slow. Probably even more so than some of the other things that I've worked on. Part of it is just because the parts aren't well produced, and part of it is just because I'm arduous and slow. Well, anyway, during the time I've got today, what I'm going to do is unmask these. I'm going to, because this didn't work out that well, the visor is gold, it's nice and shiny. And if you stay at a fairly, not too close, you don't see the brush marks, but you can see the brush marks. So I'm going to take some incredibly fine 3000 grit emery cloth and try to polish the imperfections in the visor. And maybe that'll work. Maybe it won't. I don't know. And then with whatever time is left, and I'm hoping there isn't much, but there probably will be some, I will, all sorts of little junk in there. Yeah, now it's on the floor. I will try some different things with the windows in terms of getting them measured correctly, cut correctly, and practice installing them. So that's the thing for today. I might as well just get on with it, right? Let's get on with it. So I'll do some unmasking. If the paint got on I need to clean off the edges here because that's where it gets cemented together. So I'll be doing a little bit of just like paint scraping. But mostly I'll just be peeling tape like this. I should probably talk about something while I'm doing this. Talk about humanoid robots and what a dumb idea that was. I was just reading something where someone is spending like thousands of hours and millions of dollars trying to get a humanoid robot to have more realistic facial expressions. And all I can think of is why. I mean, what good would that do to to make that happen? It would, if it were Disney, it would make the Hall of Presidents a little better. The animatronics would be, a little more expressive, I guess. There'd be that, but if you're not doing it for it, that kind of entertainment at Disney or something similar, I'm not sure why you would try to do that. But that's a thing. Somebody is making a living at trying to get robots' facial expressions look more realistic. I guess I made a wrong career path choice. At some point, I could have been doing that too. Not really succeeding at it because it's an extremely difficult thing to do. To mimic all of the different muscles in the face, which are intricate. There's lots of little muscles moving all sorts of little things all the time. The whole thing just popped right off. But there you go. It's a living for somebody, somehow, for a reason. So I could whine about that for a while, but I probably won't. I'll stop now. It was a lot more fun talking about Super Chicken. Maybe I'll go back to that. Because when you think that you're in danger, if you think you might take a licking, not literally. Doesn't mean that you should be worried about somebody coming up and slurping on you. Look at that. There's a spot that I got filled in that I didn't clean up. Okay, well, oh yeah, and here too. So, oh, this is good. I get to do some sanding. Sanding here. This is what I'm thinking of doing with the windows. You can see I taped them from the inside so that I didn't get blue paint all over the outside. But what I'm going to do is take this fine felt tip pen, and before I take that tape off, I'm going to run it along the edge of the window. Hopefully it's making a black line. And what that should have done is that marks the inside of the window, hopefully more accurately than I'm just going to do one side now for now. Hopefully more accurately than the template that came with the kit. So when I take this off, which I'm sure I can do somehow with my fingers, not tweezers. Take this off, there should be a triangular kind of marking on it. And there is, see that? There we go. Now, I'm thinking to myself, this is really quite clever. Not as clever as Tom Terrific, because he's the greatest hero ever. I can use this triangular piece here that would just be wasted otherwise. And since it's sticky on this side, I can stick it like that. There. And now I've got an inline. I guess I'll call it an inline because it's on the inside of the window of the looking at it from the inside, the left window of the LEM, the Lunar Excursion Module. To make this work, I need to not drop it on the floor. This is the inside, and so I need like 1/8 of an inch of excess all around. And I keep reminding myself and everyone else, it's easier. You can make things like this smaller by trimming more off, but you can't make it larger. So I'm going to give it a generous perimeter. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave like a tab down here on the bottom point. And I'm doing that so that there's something to grab onto with the tweezers. It doesn't need to be much, but it needs to be there so I can grab it with the tweezers. At least that's the intent. Hopefully I won't like cut off, which I just did. I just cut off the thing that I'm trying to not cut off. Yeah, that was a fail. It was an attempt that didn't succeed. What I know is that this technique of making an outline on tape from the inside, and then sticking it on the plastic, that might work. the template, you can see it. This is what an isosceles triangle or something. God, I can't even remember my geometry. It's not an equilateral triangle. So, huh, great. And it left ink on the stick, which comes off. That's good. I'm glad it comes off. Okay. So now I should be able to yep, yep, see if I can get it in place. It's definitely shaped better. Need to chip just the corner of this off. It's because of the runs up against the sidewall. Okay, right here, it runs up against the sidewall of the lamb, and so it doesn't lay flat. But it's shaped better. Yeah. Actually, it's actually okay. Tab on the bottom here needs to be a little bigger because I need to be able to grab it and set it in place and have the tweezers on the outside of the tab were longer so I could grab it here if I hadn't messed up the tab part. But I think this is now closer to working than using the template that came with the kit. As I'm practicing this, if I could put an adhesive along the top edge and get it lined up side to side, if it's stuck on the top edge instead of flopping off like that, and then set it down, I can get it to work. There'd have to be like the tiniest little bit of adhesive along the edge there because I can't really push it up. What I'm finding is I can't really push it up because it curves. The window frame at the top of the window curves. Just like a 32nd of an inch there that here just perfectly done, which that isn't anyway. Yeah. So I'm onto something there that might work. That would be good if it could work. It works better than the other things I was doing. And it's, fairly easy to get another piece of tape on there, outline it again. The alternative would be to just have opaque windows like that. Just tape it in. And of course, that would be messy. Okay, I've got spots that need to be sanded. Need to get my coffee. I will be back in a couple of seconds. Let me just get rid of the trash. My sanding kit here. This one is just, there was a dimple in the mold. And hopefully this will fill it in at least somewhat. Times plastic doesn't quite fill the injection mold, and then end up with a divot. It's a filled in divot. It's pretty good. It virtually disappeared. It didn't completely disappear, but it's pretty much not there anymore. Okay, well, that's a thing. I did a thing there. And then I attached these on Friday. These are the brackets for the reaction control jets. They were a horrible mess. The two halves, they came in halves, and the two halves were different sizes. So I filed a lot of the material off, and it's still not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. And then I attached them, and they don't, there's gaps. They didn't sit that well. So I'm going to, I put way more filler on than I needed because I wanted to make sure that the gaps were filled. Sanding off the excess. Probably should do this with my head magnifiers, but it looks so much better when I can't really see it that way. Rumor. Basically, it was more than a rumor. Our DM said, "Oh, the music thing might be fixed." There was some sort of dispute about using Nakarada's music. We have been using Alexander Nakarada's music since forever, like for almost 2 years or so, on our D&D show and on this stream. And then there was some sort of to-do, as there is wont to be apparently on the internet, about ownership of the music and trying to monetize someone else's work for yourself. But, It's like if there's anything at all, somebody's going to try to abuse it somehow. That seems to be a thing with people in general, and definitely on the internet anyway. She said that seems to be resolved and that we can start using the music again, but she needed to do something to change the playlist, maybe. I'm not exactly sure. So when I get back from all the excursions I need to be taking over the next 10 days, when I get back from that, I might have the music back. And that would be pretty good because, it's really good music, but it also means that if I go quiet for a while because I don't have anything to talk about, like the Flintstones versus the Jetsons or something like that. I think that was actually a thing. Now that I said it out loud, I think there actually was, it was either a TV show or a movie short or something. Well, they took the two adult cartoons, which just meant that they were animated things playing for a half hour on prime time. When they took those, I think they might have put them together. I don't know. That's a thing to look up. Yeah, I don't know if you can do that. Find things like that on Netflix anymore. I haven't really paid attention, I have to admit, to what one can and can't do on Netflix. I understand it's changed, but the kind of thing that you probably could go onto Netflix and do a search and find out that for some reason somebody actually did an animation where the Flintstones and the Jetsons meet up. That might actually be an interesting thing. So those of you out there who have, time to do things like look up whether or not the Flintstones and the Jetsons ever met, go ahead and do that. You can't really tell. I can't really tell how this is going to look until it's actually primed. And even then, sometimes things don't show up with the after the primer, but they show up after the final coat is put on. I do know that the texture of the filler is a little different than the texture of the surface, even after it's been sanded like this. And so the seam is going to show, at least minimally. As I said, I'm hoping it will look like a welding line, like two pieces got welded together and not like there was just a gap left because the parts didn't fit. And the reality was that there is a gap because the parts didn't fit. That's my job, is to try to minimize the flaws in the injection molding process here and try to make it look as good as I can, which is okay, which is adequate. I can make it look adequate. I don't want to sand this so much that the gap just reopens. That would really miss the point, wouldn't it? But I also don't want there to be more filler on the model than is necessary, because it will definitely show under the paint. skillful person would have applied the filler in such a way that hardly any sanding would have been required. So keep that in mind if you're watching this stream, that you're not watching the most skillful person. You're watching someone who is, can kind of see what they're doing, whose hands are somewhat steady, and who doesn't have any particular skill or training in this, and so is attempting to do a adequate job of model construction. Certainly, given what I have been given, working with what I've been given by the injection molding process here. And I definitely plan to use the technique I've talked about frequently, which is to display the model under somewhat indirect and not very bright lighting, and not allow the viewer to get closer than 18 inches. That's my plan to achieve success in detail modeling. This is yeah. These parts were just way worse than I thought they would be, and they didn't, because they had to be modified so much so that they looked like they were one piece and not two that came from totally different universes. It fit where they onto the module, the LEM itself, very well. They do give the appearance of just being stuck on, which is exactly what they are. They were just stuck on. Oh, well. So there's a bulge here. And, I don't have that much I can actually accomplish today, really. So I'm going to grind away at that bulge because it really looks ugly there. And it won't take a long time, but it'll take a little while. But I move some things around so the completed model can be seen in the background. That's an interesting thing. I've got two pieces of this done. The escape tower and the service module. And it probably would be a nice thing if they could be seen, so that when I talk about them, seeing is believing. Not seeing means that there's room for skepticism, unwarranted in this case. I'd like to be able to show off the submarine sometime too, but I have no clue how to do it. It's just like 2 feet long and actually pretty delicate. In that it is easy to break it. And I don't want to do that, having spent so much time, and your time, those who have watched me put it together, spending so much of everybody's time creating it. I don't want to ruin it, but I'd like to show off the submarine too somehow. I wonder how. There must be some, fairly simple way of I'm showing these pieces, and I have no idea what I'm going to do when I'm done with it. It's a really big model, and even if the pieces are disassembled, separated from each other, because they come apart. All the different parts come apart. They're designed to be that way, so one can recreate the Apollo mission using the model. It's still clumsy to display it. Okay, well, this isn't going to look perfect, but I have to say, given the material I was given to work with, it's not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah, there's a spot there where the two halves came together that would take off so much plastic to fix that. I don't know if I want to. This must be how a dentist feels when they're grinding away a tooth or something, and they just say, well, take too much off. Or giving a haircut, I guess. It could be that. It could be as simple as this is like giving someone a haircut, and if you take too much off, well, what are you going to do? You say, oops, oh, it looks really good short like that. And what else can you do, right? Well, maybe that won't be so obvious when the action control jets are put on. There's one that goes there and one that goes there. The alignment pins are gone. I had to sand them off in order to make this work at all. But at least I know where they're supposed to go, so I can, attach them to the appropriate place. Okay, well, this is probably really close to the point where it's not going to get any better. Dust on it before I prime it. I need to remind myself before I prime it, when the time comes to do that, to clean it, to wash it off, give it like isopropyl alcohol rub. Okay, so these parts, they end up going together like this. They match up quite poorly. And the seams will need to be ground down, sanded down. The blue paint kind of shows right now. I'm going to take some of that off. Then there's this weird stuff, like this antenna here goes here. And there's supposed to be a little bit that bends down inside that hole. And the hole is twice the diameter of the vertical bit that fell off of this because it wasn't it wasn't molded correctly. So I'll manipulate that a little bit so that it looks better than just a hole. I'm going to fill that hole in, and I've got a little bit of a thing here that I'm going to stick in the hole so that it protrudes up, so this sort of attaches to it. This one is easy. It just sets on here like that. And it actually moves around a little bit. And anyway, parts. So what I need to do with this is clean off some of the paint. Clean off the paint from the edge. Need to be careful of that. The reason it's painted inside at all is that you can see in through the front windows. Stare correctly through the windows, you can see in. And yeah, anyway, I wanted to make sure that the seams didn't show in the inside. Never going to see in there. It's kind of a waste of time, like some of the other things I've done. But in order for the cement to adhere very well here, I really should clean off. So how this goes. Usually what I usually use an X-Acto knife. Let me try that. If I do it very gently, I should be able to clean off the paint without. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this would be something to do. Is just sort of gently clean off the paint without scraping it off on the inside. And if I could get into a rambling monologue about something, I could make this more interesting than it is. Any ideas? Ooh, any ideas about a rambling monologue? Yeah, I'm not going to get all of it off, which means that some blue paint is going to show up on the outside of this after the two halves are cemented together. But that should be fine because that will mean that needs to be sanded off. It'll be kind of like a marker. If I could get the windows in, I could go ahead and cement these together. But those are still presenting a significant challenge. I don't know. It might have been easier. Well, I thought about taping the edge, but I wanted to make sure that the blue paint got all the way up to the edge. And so I says to myself, well, I can live with the blue paint getting on the edge and then I'll deal with it later. And so myself is now doing that. That is, what I'm doing is dealing with it later. This now being later than when I put the tape on Friday, when I tried to decide whether to tape the edge so that the paint didn't get on the edge, or whether to go ahead and get paint on the edge and deal with it later. So here I am later now dealing with it. Carefully, not all that way. Anyway, we'll find out what happens after I cement these two halves together sometime in the distant future. And try to make the seam disappear. Fortunately, this model is going to be painted not the white color. The whites, the primer, and the pearlescent are kind of translucent paints. And so if there were a dark seam, it would show. But this is going to be painted a fairly dark metallic color, which should hide the flaws, the paint, if any of it seeps through later. So I think this is a somewhat safe route to take, given that the two things I'm trying to accomplish are not having a white seam on the inside. Okay, so I want I don't want to show white on the inside, which is why I painted all this. And probably not, other than the adherence. Hold after it dissolves the paint. The answer is yeah, probably. There isn't much surface detail that there aren't any rivet lines or anything that need to be preserved on this model. So it's all flat on flat. So all of that can be sanded down without causing a problem. Well, I didn't get very much of that done very well, but I'm just telling myself not to worry about it. This is my official yep, Dyson Dungeons logo mug. Sure. Let's polish this visor. I'm curious. I'm just curious now about whether that can be done effectively or not. So the issue is that the gold paint was sort of viscous, jelly-like, and it didn't level all that well after being applied to the visor of the standing inside the LEM astronaut, so brush marks show. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to see whether by using 3,000 grit emery cloth, I can polish the brush marks off, giving it a light sanding. And if it doesn't work, well, then I can just put more gold paint on it, I guess. It's unlikely to make it worse. I think it looks actually pretty good as it is. It's not perfect, but given how this will be displayed, if it actually gets displayed, it's kind of amusing, really. Hi, Ole. Thanks for joining in. I am attempting to polish the gold paint on the visor of the standing inside the lunar module astronaut. I think he looks all right. I'm not going to mess with it too much. This is a totally inauthentic representation of the spacesuit that they wore. Revell did not do their homework when the designers put this suit together, the design for this suit, and it doesn't look, other than the gold visor and the fact that it has gloves, doesn't have anything to do with the real thing. So they put these little embellishments like a belt buckle and one connector, not 6. So I just put some paint on it just so you could see it. But the thing that I liked doing was the gloves. The gloves are painted dark gray, but the real gloves had blue fingertips on them because it was a different kind of rubber. So I said to myself, sure, let's do that. And then this guy is supposed to stand here somehow or other, be cemented onto the base of the LEM. And if I'm successful in getting it to adhere through all the manipulations this is going to have to go through before it's completed, it should be possible should be possible to see it peeking through the window. No, get the orientation right. You can just barely see the gold visor there. So that's that. The issue I'm having. There's other astronauts. I'm going to work on those when I get back. I was explaining to everybody else, but since you're here, I'm going to be away. I have to be away for about 10 days. Just a whole lot of stuff all at once. Everything everywhere all at once, right? Actually happens. So I'm in one of those everything everywhere all at once situations, and I need to be away from the stream until after the weekend of the 4th. Okay, so it turns out that the template that came with the model for cutting out the windows of the lunar excursion module, show you the template. Oh, there it is. It's amazing how I could lose things that are right in front of me. You can't see that because you can't see everything here. But this template, the window pattern here, they are isosceles triangles in that these two sides are the same. Okay. But the windows are not. One side is longer than the other side. And so when I used a copy of the template to test it, the windows didn't fit. So I got very clever. This was my cleverness moment, is since I had to tape the inside of the windows anyway for the spray painting of the inside of this, is I'll do it on this side now, is I can take this felt tip pen and I'll find it on the tape. Yeah. Take the tape off, stick the tape onto the back of the clear plastic. I'm just using carry-out container tops for practice because I have to do a lot of practice on this before I can get it to work. And then if I can use the tweezers and get the tape off, I can put the tape on the plastic and cut out a window. And I'm going to be doing this many times because just things just don't fit very well. Okay. So I am practicing the making of a pattern, the cutting of it out, and the application of it in the window well. And fortunately, getting clear plastic carry-out containers is there's just a lot of it around. I'll put it that way. And not all of it is very high quality. Like on this piece, the only truly transparent and not modeled part is right around the edge, which is actually enough for what I'm doing. But that's another thing altogether. So I'm also learning about how much to cut out. This time I'm hoping I'm successful on leaving a little tab at the bottom, right at the base here, at the base of the triangle. I am leaving a tab of excess plastic, and that's my gripping point. That's where I can I don't know if I left enough on that. I might be cutting this a little too small this time. That's why I'm practicing over and over and over until I get it down right. When I get it down right enough, now let's just see. There, fingers worked finally. Okay, and I know I need to trim this corner off because of the way it bumps in. But this is my this will never show because it's on the inside of the model in a way where you can't see it. But it's the thing I'll be using to grip it. This bumps into the side of the limb. So I need to trim that off. So this way, by putting that little tab on the bottom, I can set it. Is it backward? What I can do is I can lose track of which side is which. I need to put a little marker on them. I think maybe I'll do that. Is anyway, I'm just like, you can watch me put a piece of transparent plastic more or less into position on. Yeah, if there were an adhesive there, what I'm learning is the technique is to, at least for me, thanks for dropping in. I appreciate it. And I will see you in about a week and a half, the Monday after the 4th of July, when I will be back. Have a good dinner. Yeah, I managed to get this like turned around. Like I said, it's not symmetric. And so the technique will be to have a bead of adhesive right along the top of the window, get it stuck on there. There's like a 64th of an inch that is available for the sticking on bit. Get it stuck on there and then lay it down, lined up just right. It's really tight so it doesn't rotate. Get that stuck on there. Lay it down on the rest of it, and hopefully it will grab it so that I can, I mean, it's not grabbing it because there's no adhesive there, then I can let go of the tweezers without it falling off. Hold it tight. Yeah, it needs to be just perfectly placed. But that will do it. Okay. This technique is going to work. I'm not going to try it. I'm not going to do it today. even though it seems to be working, because I'm not feeling confident enough to pull it off. But I know that I can use the tape to make, to design the window, to get it shaped. And I know that if I put a little tab on the bottom like this, that it gives me a thing with which to grip it. And if I get the adhesive right, if I can get the adhesive right so it doesn't smear on the window, I'd be able to get them on. And then if I can get them to hold really tight, then I can mask them on the outside. And once they're in and masked, and masking these little triangle corners, that will be an issue too. Then I can glue these together, and after they're cemented together, I can clean up the seams. And after I clean up the seams, then I can I don't know how I'm going to mask that. I don't want paint to get in this hole. Do I need to mask it before I put it together? I mean, the windows will be taken care of. This is just another thing of I don't want the paint to get in there. Okay, so I may end up doing this. Let me practice that. I'm going to give this a try. What the heck? I think this will work. Put some masking tape on the inside of this before I put the two halves together. I'm just trying it. See what happens. Okay, so just put masking tape there and here. And I can get them to adhere. Now the hole is covered. Huh. And then I just need to get the masking tape out after I paint it. That's the thing. That will work. This hole is going to be filled in, so I'm not worried about that. All right, I did another thing. I did a clever enough thing. Probably when I actually do the real thing, I'm going to use the good tape that doesn't peel paint off. Okay, well, I've shown some cleverness today in terms of how I'm going to mask that hole. I hope I remember to mask the hole before I cement these together. That would be really dumb to have come up with something like that and then fail to execute. I'm just trying to think of what I want to do. I have a technique that should work with the windows, but I'm not going to do that today because just kind of lack of focus and having to end early today as well. Just, it's just that sort of thing. But at least I know how I can do it. So when I get back from my travels, I know how I'm going to do the windows. and I'm hoping I can actually make it work, that I can pull it off. I know how I'm going to mask that hole. Slips in there like that eventually. Yeah, so what should I do with the rest of the time here? Maybe I'll maybe I'll work on some of the astronauts a little bit. Yeah, why not? I don't want to do the walking on the moon guy, or do I want to do work on the sitting? I want to work on the sitting in the capsule guys. These are not historically accurate representations. These of the suits. These the suits, not the helmet, but the suits actually come closer to actually representing the real walking on the moon suits, the lunar excursion suits, than the one that came with the model actually does, because it has 2 rows of connectors. You can see the bumps on here. Okay, it has 2 rows of connectors. The sitting in the capsule suits had only 1 row of connectors. Go figure. Anyway, this is how they looked. There's 2 blue ones on top and a red one on the bottom. And so I can, if I'm, why not? I'm feeling up to it. I could paint them. Blue paint and red paint. And then there's this thing down the middle. I have no idea what that's supposed to be. Why that's there at all. The seat belt, maybe. I don't know. There's a little bit of what I did on this one is at the base of the helmet, there's like a little clasp. And I painted that kind of metallic. And I might do that on this one too, because they went out of their way to mold it. And it's just something to, it's just a little detail, so it's not just stark white. And I'll probably paint the gloves the dark gray. That's how they're supposed to look. I'm not going to paint the fingertips on these guys, I don't think. But there. So let me do a little bit of painting. I can do a little bit of painting here. Painting with Dyson Dungeons. I just need to find the right blue. The correct blue might just be blue. Maybe I'll just use blue. No, I haven't used these paints in a while. I do need to go get some wash water and a little. I don't need a palette because I'm using the Tamiya paints. Things around, making a mess of stuff. Here, set this up so you can see how I made a mess here. Yep, did a good job with that. Well, I go get some wash water because I'm going to unexpectedly do some painting here. Spontaneous and unplanned painting event for at least a little while. While I go and get that, I'm also going to throw away the trash. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Here, what I have here is a little tub of water that I will use to clean the brush. And what I have here, paints. Use the gloss. I'm going to use the flat. The other is blue. There we go. Red and blue. Neither of those have been used in a long, long time, so they're going to have to get a good, serious stirring on the vortex spinner thing. I know it's going to be weird doing a little painting, and I'm going to get to wear my head magnifiers too. Even better, huh? Pretty amazing things happening here today during my once more shortened stream. It was only Friday that almost went the entire time. So it only took me an hour and a half to find a brush. Sort of. Blue. Let's start with the blue one. Hopefully I can get this stirred up enough to actually be usable. Yeah, the little ball bearing in there. The little metal ball I can hear it moving, which means that it has become dislodged from the pigment that has settled to the bottom of the bottle. I'm not getting much of a rave effect. Let me see if I can do that. I know. No, it's just not happening today, is it? Well, there's a little bit. So while I'm stirring this, we talked about Dyson Dungeons. Dyson Dungeons is a Dungeons and Dragons show. We are a group of family and friends, and we put on an amazingly excellent, terrific Dungeons and Dragons show that streams with a live chat on Sundays at 2 Eastern Time. Usually about 3 Sundays a month. It depends on holidays. We usually don't stream on at least major U.S. holiday weekends because we figured no one's going to be watching then. Although a lot of people who check out the show are not from the U.S., so they could care less about the U.S. holidays. But nonetheless, that's the schedule we're on, as determined by our dungeon mistress. And if you can't catch our show with the live chat, you can always catch previous episodes on YouTube, or even listen to them as a podcast. And we are quite clever and funny, and the campaign ranges from relaxed shopping in magic shops to intensely dangerous combat, at which my character, Will Seth Relative for Bug Fighter, will sometimes mostly be dead. Hasn't completely died yet, which is good, because then I'd have to roll a new character and the whole arc of the story line of the campaign would have to change, and that would be difficult. But anyway, enough rambling on about that. You should watch it. And this whole thing started because we produce our own dungeon tiles on the printers back there, and then they get painted, hand painted, and then they show up on the show where they look really good on camera. Anyway, am I painting Apollo because we don't have a need for more dungeon tiles right now? And as a result, okay, I'm going to do this since it's historically inaccurate. I'm going to do 2 blues and a red and 1 blue and a red. And then it looks like Yeah, there's some other little bits on here that I might paint. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I make a mess of this or not. If it worst comes to worst, I can scrape off the blue paint right and wow. Where did it all go? What did we use blue for? I remember using blue paint for much of anything, but it's mostly gone. Mysterious disappearance of blue paint. I remember we painted some riverbed tiles, but there weren't that many of them. Seriously, I really. There's just a whole lot of not of used paint in here. I mean, no, that didn't make sense. There's a lot less paint in the jar than I expected. Okay, this isn't. I don't like how this is turning out. The blue is too dark and it's looking black. So I'm just going to give this up, this paint, and I'm going to get a different color blue. A little bit lighter. That'll dry eventually, and I'll be able to paint over it with the other color. But this just is coming out way too dark. Okay, well, I guess that's an excuse to not get any painting done, as it didn't look very good. I think the flat blue should look blue. If not, I might have to use azure. For some reason, this came against the white. It just looks really dark. So I'm going to try the Viejo paint and see how that works. What I should do is get a palette. Well, I'm just going to be lazy. Sorry about that. I was, painting the connector on there, and it just isn't working. The paint is just too dark, and it looks black, and I want it to look blue. And I know the red looks red. Okay, this piece of cardboard is about going to be retired. I think I'm going to gift myself a new piece of cardboard when I get back from being away. So I'm just going to be lazy here and put a dollop of paint just right on the cardboard rather than getting the palette. A little dangerous doing this because it could just end up like putting my finger in it or something, right? And then getting paint all over the place. Let's see if that happens. Let us all see if I manage to have made a big mistake here and end up getting paint all over places where I don't want it. I don't know. We'll find out. It's coming out blue. Okay. Color is definitely better. It could be a little thinner. If it were a little thinner, it'd be easier to use. This is where it would be good to have music because, you know, so I'm painting little dots here and going quiet. Become quiet. We've not been talking about Terrific or Wonder Dog. Canine sidekicks. Yeah, that's another topic, I suppose. If I remembered correctly, if I could remember things, I could talk about canine sidekicks. No, and not just Lassie, who was like the star of the show. Maybe Manfred, Tom Terrific's Wonder Dog, or it was a Dino. I know it was spelled Dino, but it was pronounced Dino on the Flintstones. The Jetsons had a dog too. I think it was like a robot dog. I think it was. I don't remember its name. Trying to get these so that they're, pretty much identical. Now I've got blue dots on these guys. Pretty cool, huh? You're seeing the application of little blue dots on astronaut figures that are going to be sitting inside the command module when that ever gets going. Probably, I don't know, in the fall. The rate things are going, and sometimes I am away. One of the advantages of being retired. I mean, other than having the time to do this as an unpaid intern. Yeah, that's my that's why I am not a master modeler. Okay, I'm an unpaid intern. That's it. That's my story. Paid painting modeling intern, applying my trade as I'm attempting to develop it right here, courtesy of Dyson Dungeons. And that description is fairly accurate, as I am definitely unpaid. You know, and I can say I'm an intern. I mean, who's going to, as opposed to what? I better say that, because otherwise we'd be violating wage and hour law, right? How do they get away with that anyway? How can you be an unpaid intern? You're doing real work. I suppose it's like being a student, right? You end up doing real work, but you have to pay somebody for the privilege of doing it. I don't know. Makes you think. Yeah. So, yeah, these are coming along okay. These blue dots are connectors. On the real spacesuits, there was a bunch of hoses that connected to the suits that gave them like oxygen and heating and cooling and stuff like that. Life support, basically. So those are some life support connectors. And there were blue ones and red ones, and those are the blue ones. Now I can paint the red ones. No, there's red paint. Give this. We'll see how this works. Oh, yeah, this has. I'm looking at the jar and I can see how the pigment is totally separated from the solvent. So this will take a while to stir up. I guess I haven't been doing enough painting on relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons, and all the paints are just kind of settling out and separating. Little mixing ball has finally broken loose of the pigment. You can't hear it, but there's a, I don't know, vortex thing, and it vibrates, and it's supposed to be like when you buy paint at a hardware store or something, and they put it in the shaker thing to get it all mixed up. That's supposed to be doing that to the paint in the jar here. Anyway, yeah, so I'm not painting dungeon tiles because I don't have any to paint at the moment. So I'm painting astronauts that are sitting inside the Apollo command module when the time comes for that to be happening. But you know, it's a way to fill a little bit of time on this in a kind of appropriate to the show way. The jar open, that was good. Usually that doesn't happen. And this one's full, so it's like we've never used this. these back on so I can see the dots that I'm supposedly painting. There are additional connectors down here that are going to be red. The paint decides to adhere to the brush. Some other things on here. There's like a connector of some sort that doesn't exist in the real suit. I'm guessing I'll paint that kind of a metallic color. Like a big zipper down the middle. I don't know what that's about. This is, like I said, these are not historically accurate representations of the Apollo suits. It's almost a The biggest oopses I have when I'm painting is bringing the brush up to and away from the surface, and I almost dropped the sky, almost grabbed it with the brush, and there would have been a big red streak somewhere across the front of it. That would have been bad. I managed to get blue paint on my finger there. I have no idea how it got there. When I'm doing painting, somehow the paint is able to leap tall buildings with a single bound, able to jump from wherever it is, like onto parts of my hand that don't come anywhere close to where the paint is. I don't know how it does that, but it does. Sometimes it'll do that, and I won't know it's there, and then I'll touch something. Paint where I don't want it. Does that? I really don't. It baffles me. We get these big jars of paint. When we're painting dungeon tiles, we'd go through a lot of paint. It was just by far the most cost-effective way of buying the paint is in as large container as possible. But when we're not painting dungeon tiles, I've got this giant jar of paint and I'm putting little dots on, right? The heck. Okay, so that doesn't circular, is it? Now they got red spots as well as blue spots. Was the intent. That'll do. And what have I got? Like 10 minutes left. The gloves are supposed to be gray, and on the moon suits they're really dark gray, but I think for this purpose, and I'll show it to you. You can see it's a really serious, significant contrast with the rest of the suit. I'm going to paint them a lighter gray color here. So yeah, watch our Dice and Dungeons show. It's our Dungeons and Dragons show. Duh. You need to watch our Dungeons and Dragons show. We have a live chat on Sundays at 2 Eastern Daylight Time. And if you can't do that, you can catch them on YouTube or as a podcast. And it's a really good show. And this all started, as I've explained before, as the place where the dungeon tiles had been painted for use on the show. And the reason there aren't any right now is because we've got all we need. And so I'm working on a model of the Apollo stack instead. And these astronauts are the 3 astronauts that sit inside the command module. And because they don't change poses and you can't take them out once they're set in there, there are additional figures for sitting inside the lunar module and walking on the moon. There's the walking on the moon guy. That will end up getting painted sometime in the future. So I'm just working on these to use up the last little bits of time here before I need to end early today, because there are things happening like all the time lately. June has been a really busy month of stuff. I did a nice job of molding the thumb here, and a really poor job of indicating where the cuff of the glove is. So I'm just going to have to make up the dividing line. I'm going to say the glove ends there. It's where the glove starts. The arbitrary delineation of the glove is right there. This is a lighter gray than appears on pictures of the suit. But I think for the purposes of a display model, it will look a little better than the really dark gray does. But the gloves are definitely gray. These guys are gonna be sitting in the command module, so the underparts, the underside isn't going to really show. So I need to just get the top here. And since I created an arbitrary location for the top of the gloves, I'll try to replicate it on the other side. much I'm going to do here. Should I finish the gloves? Maybe I'll go ahead and try to do all three of these guys. I don't know. Depends on when people need to leave for the thing that we need to do that is causing this to end early today. June has been like that. Last week, I needed to end early on Monday because of an appointment. The stream was interrupted on Wednesday because of a power outage. That knocked everything off and it needed to be totally reset. I'm not sure what happened on Friday. I thought I did a full stream, but I don't remember now. And I need to be away for a fairly long period of time, and we'll be back doing this stream. I'm not disappearing. I'm just doing other stuff that I have to do, and we'll be back the Monday after July 4th, whatever day that is. It's Monday. I mean, whatever date that is, July something. We'll be back on July something. There, I was got blue and red connectors and gray gloves. Yep. Good going. Good going, astronaut. Gray gloves. But what you can do, instead of watching this stream, which isn't going to be happening, what you can do while this stream isn't happening is you can take the time to go on YouTube and catch some episodes of our Dungeons and Dragons show. That would be a good use of your time. It wouldn't be quite as relaxing as this. Sometimes it gets pretty loud. Nine's the Tabaxi Bard can be quite loud. Sometimes there are dramatic events, and those can be too, but anyway, it would be a good use of time, and it would give you an opportunity to get to know our show a little bit. So I'm going to encourage you to do that while I am away. But just know for sure that this stream will not be discontinued. Nope. It is just not happening for a week and a half. Other life stuff gets done. See, that's the difference between being like a really popular paid streamer and being an unpaid intern, is that popular paid streamer, like if you went to patreon.com/DysonDungeons, patreon.com/DysonDungeons, and said, I'd like to support Dyson Dungeons and all of its endeavors, then I would feel an obligation to not have any other thing in my life other than my job. But this is, this is a volunteer gig. So other life things do come up, and I need to attend to them. Anyway, I'm rambling again, but I will be back, definitely. But even though I am coming back, you should still go to patreon.com/Dyson Dungeons and support our Dungeons and Dragons show. And then you get access to really cool stuff like our DM notes and our warm-up improvs. And recently, takes from cold reads where we send a prompt off to artificial intelligence and read what it comes up with. I'll just say this. I can say this without qualification. We, as players on Dyson Dungeons D&D show, are better than AI. We are, in fact, better than AI. How did I get? Look at that. I talked about errors happening. There's a spot of red paint on the shoulder. I have no idea how it got there. What am I going to do with it? It's like one of those things that can't really be painted over. It just needs to be it's just really weird. Two more gloves. I'm going to do these gloves in that, then that will be it. That will be the culmination of what will be achieved today on Relaxing Painting with Dyson Dungeons. Rather surprisingly, even for me, I surprised myself. There is actually painting happening on Painting with Dyson Dungeons today. I have a super special bonus for anybody who catches this episode. Usually, recently, it's just been filing, sanding, and a lot of complaining as I attempt to get the pieces of the Apollo model to be usable and fit together. But today I managed to get some painting in. Yes, I am painting some of the detail on the astronaut figures that sit inside the command module, which after the lunar module will be the next thing to be put together. Don't hold your breath, though, because the lunar module is taking quite a long time. I'd say it's taking at least twice as long as I thought it would take, and I thought it would take a long time. It's just moving along very, very slowly, partly because of interruptions like power outages, like happened last Wednesday, and partly just because the parts don't fit, and partly because I am slow. Check to make sure that the arbitrary location of the top of the glove is fairly consistent from one figure to the other. They're supposedly like identically molded, but they're variations. I'm not sure why or how. be kind of cool. Be kind of cool as while I'm gone because it's a long time to go, without any sessions of relaxing painting. I'm wondering if Dyson Dungeons could arrange to have like a guest painter come in. One of the other members of Dyson Dungeons come in and paint stuff and assemble things. Maybe not every day, but it maybe at least a couple of the days while I'm gone to do that. I think that would be a cool thing. I have to mention that to them and see if someone can do that. So pay attention to social media, I guess, in terms of scheduling. I'm not sure how else to let people know that there might be a session while I'm away. Okay, let me clean the brush. No, I mean, I could name them after the people who were actually on the mission, like Armstrong and Aldrin and Collins. No, everybody forgets the guy who got stuck in the command module and didn't go to the moon. But no, I could name them Bob 2, and also Bob. I could do that. So what needs to be done on these yet? There's some little attachments and protrusions and buckles and things on the suits that don't exist in the real thing that I think I'm going to highlight with a metallic color. And then the faces are supposed to be painted flesh tone. Yeah, all Bobs. I could name them Bill, Billy. Oh, like the members of who's Tabaxi Bard Nines' band. These could all be Billies. I'm just not going to name them. No, it's just not going to happen. So there. The Monday edition of Relaxing Painting with Dyson Dungeons is about to end early because there's stuff that needs to be done, and then a whole lot of stuff needs to be done that will take up the next week and a half, and I'll be back on the there's the metallic color I'm going to use. That's why it's out. I will be back on the Monday after the 4th of July, whatever date in July that is, where I will continue to work on the Apollo module. And the things I'll be doing then, maybe not so exciting, is I'll probably be spending almost the entire time trying to get the windows in the LEM, in the lunar module. So I'll be putting tape on there, drawing around like I was doing earlier in the stream, drawing a triangle, cutting the triangle out of plastic, carefully applying some sort of adhesive once I've test fit it like 3 or 4 times. Test fitting it, I'll adhere it, and hopefully it will stick. And if I can get both windows in, I can get both of those windows in and having them be held firmly in place, then I'll be able to mask them on the outside. And once they're masked, then the rest of this will come together. I mean, you'll actually see things happening. Like the seams will be sanded down, then they'll be primed and painted. And once this whole thing is painted, and the whole thing is painted the same color, the entire thing is painted a dark metallic color. Once that's done, then I can put these antenna bits on. And then attach the reaction control jets, these tiny little things, to appropriate the spots where they need to attach to these brackets. Anyway, getting the windows in is just absolutely critical, and getting them in a way where they stay in and don't get poked out is really important. And once that's done, then you will see progress happening pretty quickly. And I don't know, the way things are going, it may end up it'll take a lot of effort and trial and error, and hopefully not that much error, but we'll see, to get the windows fabricated and attached successfully. Yeah, I mean that's what needs to be done. I've practiced now several times, and I think I've got a technique down that has a fairly, better than 50-50 chance of succeeding. I don't need this container anymore. Let's put these astronauts here in the box of parts. It doesn't look like much, does it? And it really just doesn't look like much at all. But just all of these bits didn't fit, and they're attached, and yep, doing B work here. B grade B level modeling. Not quite A. Some of these gloves came out almost A level, but this antenna came out really well, I think. I like that. Yep, I'm going to wrap up today because there's stuff that needs to be done, and it needs to be done sooner than later. So I'm just going to cover these things up, say thanks for watching. Please check in again 2 weeks from today. Okay, 2 weeks from today, I'll be back working on getting the windows attached to the inside of the lunar module. And once that's done, like I said, once that is done, progress will move along really quickly. And then I'll be able to work on the descent module, which is the bottom part of this, the thing that lands on the moon and stays there when it's all done. Yep. I'll be able to do that then. So, yeah, something to look forward to. Progress being made in the construction of the lunar ascent stage. See you 2 weeks from today. And stay tuned to some of the social media in case there just happens to be a guest painter coming on and this stream happens with someone else doing relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons. Take care. See you all later.